On January 29th, we got this story of Blake Griffin being traded to the Detroit Pistons from the Los Angeles Clippers. And in this video, I'm going to show you how it is a completely scripted story, just like all of our mainstream media articles, just like our sports leagues are scripted this way, and it's synced up to the media articles, and our history is scripted this way. It's scripted with what is called gematria, the practice of coding numbers into words. And if you don't believe me, check out more of my videos, check out my blog. Every single day, the same thing happens. There is a code, and if you don't believe it, learn what I'm talking about and learn to apply it for yourself. Check out the descriptions and the links in the description. But last year, around the time that Isaiah Thomas's sister died, and Isaiah Thomas lost his tooth and a bunch of other stuff, I was talking about how there was a connection between the Detroit Pistons and the Houston Rockets. And, even think about it. Isaiah Thomas, the former Detroit Pistons player, the guy who tore his Achilles, he tore his Achilles in '94, which was the year that the Houston Rockets won the NBA Finals, the first year Michael Jordan had retired. But I'm not going to keep explaining that. I'll leave some links in the description. There are some long videos, but definitely worth your time to check them out. And what I noticed was that in gematria, I noticed that Houston Rockets equal 203 and also 175, just like Detroit Pistons. 203 and 175. They're the reflections of each other. And think about Chris Paul leaving Los Angeles to go to the Houston Rockets, and then now we have Blake Griffin leaving to go to the Detroit Pistons, and they have this connection. Last year I was even talking a whole lot about a space theme, right? And I talked about how John Glenn died 175 days before the NBA Finals, and NASA and satanic gematria equals 175. Just pointed out really quick. NASA equals 175. Also, Isaiah Thomas, the Detroit Pistons player, 175, and a bunch of stuff connected to Pope Francis and the space theme, and they even have the Vatican even has the telescope called Lucifer and whatnot. And there's a big space theme. And then Golden State ended up winning the NBA Finals. And think about Houston in regards to space and whatever else. But all of these things are interrelated and whatnot. Anyway, moral of the story, just think about it. Chris Paul leaves Los Angeles to go to the Rockets. Now Blake Griffin's going to the Pistons. They have this interrelated connection. And I looked up when Chris Paul he got traded to the Rockets, and it was 215 days, or also 7 months, 1 day, before Blake Griffin got traded to the Pistons. And Blake Griffin in gematria equals 71, a lot like 7 months, 1 day. And also, Blake Griffin's final game, to go with the 215, Blake Griffin's final game with the Clippers, the score just so happened to even total 215 points. No coincidence, 215 points on his last game. Gets traded 215 days after Chris Paul. And I just started thinking about, it's also against New Orleans. In New Orleans, we just had the scripted Achilles tear of DeMarcus Cousins. And DeMarcus Cousins' Achilles tear was super synced up to Kobe Bryant. And then I even talked about Isaiah Thomas, the player of the Detroit Pistons in 1994. I'll leave that video in the description, but absolutely connected. Interesting that it's against New Orleans. Marcus Cousins' first game with New Orleans was against the Rockets, and he tore his Achilles against the Rockets. So I think that's why Blake Griffin's last game was against New Orleans, because I think we're going to see the Rockets and the Cavaliers in the NBA Finals. I could be wrong. Possibly that it's synced up to the 175 that's connected to Golden State again. We'll see. I'm going to keep following the story. I don't care who wins, but it's obviously scripted. That's all that matters, that people see that it is scripted. And you can watch these games individually and you'll see certain things that happen, where like Kobe Bryant equals 58 and he always scores the 58th point, or, that they mention a joke. The announcers will say something about a joke with the number 58 with Kobe Bryant. Or it just happens all the time. If you just pay attention and you understand this knowledge. So I also started thinking about the connections to the Super Bowl, because a lot of these things are synced up to other events, not just the NBA. And I remembered that the last time the Pistons have been in the NBA Finals was in the year 2005. And the last time the Eagles played the Patriots was also in the year 2005. And Blake Griffin played for Oklahoma, which just reminds me of Sam Bradford. And I've talked about Sam Bradford and his, he left the Eagles and the Vikings and whatever else. And case they're all connected to the Rams or whatever. And then the Rams moved back to Los Angeles. But, Nick Foles, Sam Bradford, Case Keenum, Teddy Bridgewater always gets injured against the Rams. There's lots of connections in regards to the Rams and what's going on with it. But I just started thinking about that in the year 2005. The Pistons being they lost to the Spurs in 2005, and San Antonio Spurs equal 215. So interesting. 215 days after Chris Paul, San Antonio Spurs equal 215. Also, Pistons in gematria equals 41 and 112. The word Super Bowl equals 41 and 112 in reverse. And Houston equals 112. Last year the Super Bowl was in Houston. And then later that year we got the Astros winning the World Series. It was super connected to the number 52 and the Houston Floods and whatever else. So now we have Super Bowl 52 coming up. I also was thinking about I'll leave another video in the description, but my Kentavious Caldwell Pope video about his 25-day jail sentence. Whole bunch of the number 25, but he got arrested after playing the Detroit Pistons and whatnot. And he's super connected to the Pope and to the Eagles. Pope equals 175 too, just like Pope Francis. And Kentavious Caldwell Pope equals 333, just like Philadelphia Eagles. The Pope's big visit was in 2015, and 2015 was the 333rd year of Philadelphia that I've talked about a whole bunch. I also was thinking about the mythological bird, the Griffin, right? And it's a half lion and a half eagle. The Eagles are in the Super Bowl. Now Blake Griffin gets traded to Detroit where the Lions play. And, who knows? Peter Griffin on Family Guy. Family Guy is super synced up every year to the Super Bowl, it seems. Even if you look up Griffins, the bird, on Wikipedia, it talks about the Griffin statues at the Philadelphia Museum of Art. Also, this number 316 is really important to the Super Bowl this year. It's all synced up to the kneeling during the national anthem. That's the big major theme. And Donald Trump called out the people kneeling on 9/23, which was important to the day that Pope Francis came to America and whatnot. He arrived on his 923rd day as being the Pope and went to the White House at 9:23 in the morning on 9/23. And Donald Trump and the Pope have a whole lot of connections and whatnot. Donald Trump went to a Jesuit university. Pope Francis is the first Jesuit Pope. Their birthdays are 187 days apart. Society of Jesus equals 187. That's what the Jesuits are. Trump's Republican National Convention began on 18/7, 187 days before he became the president on January 20th. Trump even born on Flag Day, right? June 14th, Flag Day. And in gematria, if you write out Donald J. Trump, it equals 1,189, like the chapters in the King James Bible. And Pope Francis's 1189th day being the Pope just so happened to be Donald Trump's birthday in the 239th year of the United States. Think about 923, it can be written 23/9. The 52nd prime number is 239. Super Bowl 52. The flag supposedly sewn at 239 Arch Street in Philadelphia. But the reason that 316 is so important is because Pope Francis's birthday is 316 days after the Super Bowl this year. Jesus Christ in Hebrew gematria equals 316. But in regards to all of the kneeling during the national anthem stuff, it's synced up to Charles Manson dying. Charles Manson born on the 316th day of the year, and his full name, Charles Mills Maddox, equals 316. He died 3 months, 16 days after Tom Brady's birthday on 8/3. The word football equals 83. And, that's even why Peyton Manning was born on the 83rd day of the year and whatever else. But Charles Manson was also synced up a lot to the number 83. And, 8/3 to his death day, 3 months, 16 days. So 316 is a super important number to Charles Manson. Charles Manson believed in the helter-skelter theory that the blacks would rise up, right? And I talked about this in 2016 or whatever, before the Super Bowl, because Colin Kaepernick kneeling and whatever else. There's a bunch of stuff with Charles Manson. Then Charles Manson even died this year in connection to it. But, think about it. Kneeling, Charles Manson saying the blacks will rise up. That's why we got the Black Bird in the World Series, or in the Super Bowl last year, the Atlanta Falcons, the Blackbird, because, Charles Manson said that the song Blackbird of the Beatles was telling people the blacks to rise up and whatever else. So that's why we got the death of Charles Manson this year. So it's interesting, Blake Griffin born on 3/16. The NBA Finals are even connected to Jesus. Jesus Christ equals 151 in simple gematria, the alphabetic order. The NBA Finals began on the 151st day of the year this year. I also found it interesting that the Blake Griffin trade happened one day after the Clippers lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers, and then one day before the Cleveland Cavaliers played the Clippers again. So they played back-to-back, which seems really interesting to me because possibly this happens more than I think, and I don't know. I still haven't looked it up. But how often do NBA teams play back-to-back like that? I don't remember that happening very often, and I used to watch a ton of NBA. And I just don't remember teams playing back-to-back. And that's even super synced up because back-to-back in gematria, it was a huge theme I was talking about in 2016 when I thought the Warriors were going to beat the Cleveland Cavaliers again in the NBA Finals because back-to-back, right? They would win back-to-back, but back-to-back equals 69, just like Cleveland Cavaliers or whatever. So, just interesting that they would play back-to-back. Right in between them games, Blake Griffin gets traded. So it's synced up to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And if you remember, LeBron James is also super synced up to the Jesuit anniversary and whatnot. LeBron James was born in 1984. The word Jesuit equals 84. And he was born 3 months and 3 days after the Jesuit anniversary in 84. Jesus supposedly died on the cross at the age of 33, and LeBron is the king. And 1984 was the 444th anniversary of the Jesuits. In Sumerian gematria, Jesus equals 444. So LeBron James has a big connection to the Jesuits. He's the king. They're playing back-to-back, which seems weird to me. I could be wrong. I'll throw that out there, but just seems weird. And then back-to-back even syncs up with what I was talking about in 2016, to the Cleveland Cavaliers. So I really think the Contavious Caldwell Pope stuff too was right around the time that Kobe Bryant had his jersey retirement, and he missed the games against the Cavaliers, and then he played the game against the Warriors, and then he missed the game against the Rockets. And then it was whatever for that jail sentence. So it just makes me wonder. I really, it just seems like it's really pointing to the Rockets and the Cavaliers in the NBA Finals. But, who knows? I learn more every day. So, we'll see what happens. We'll see what the big theme is really in regards to the NBA Finals and whatnot. Usually you learn the big theme after the All-Star game too, it seems like. So, and the All-Star games in Los Angeles and whatever else. So in that game before Blake Griffin got traded too, I mean, it is interesting because the Cavaliers had 121 points and Warriors equal 121, so possibly that's what it's synced up to. But the Cavaliers got their 29th win on the 29th day when they traded Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin traded on. The Cavaliers got their 29th win. Blake Griffin got traded on the 29th day of the year. And he won't play his former team, the Clippers, until February 9th, 2/9. That's how scripted it is. you know, the Cavs get their 29th win against them, and they trade Griffin on the 29th day, and he doesn't play the Clippers again until 2/9. Ohio equals 29. The word football, the small way, equals 29. I also know that what I'm talking about in regards to all of this and Isaiah Thomas and how it's synced up, and I talked about the connections of the Rockets and the Pistons. If you look up the trade here, Blake Griffin got traded along with Willie Reed and Bryce Johnson in exchange for Avery Bradley, Tobias Harris, and however you say that guy's name. Avery Bradley played with Isaiah Thomas, the Celtic player who lost his tooth and his sister died last year. And we even got the story of how he was from Tacoma, Washington. And, then we got the recall of the Toyota Tacoma. And Isaiah Thomas's sister died in a Toyota Camry or whatever, right? And the Rockets play in the Toyota Center. A bunch of other stuff, is synced up to this and all the king symbolism, LeBron James being the king. Isaiah Thomas's sister died age 22, and Isaiah Thomas played for the Kings, and he wore number 22. That's how it syncs up to DeMarcus Cousins as well. I talked about DeMarcus Cousins last year in regards to all this. And then he got traded to the Pelicans, and the first game he played was against the Rockets. But in regards to Avery Bradley came out and said that Isaiah Thomas should just play without his tooth or whatever and not get it fixed because there was a guy in the Seattle area where they're both from who played without his tooth named Rodney Stuckey. And Rodney Stuckey equaled 166 and Avery Bradley Jr. equaled 166 and whatever it was. What's Isaiah, whatever his real name is, Thomas equaled 166. They all had the same gematria. Also, Avery Bradley was traded to Detroit for a guy named Marcus Morris, who was born in Philadelphia, and he was drafted to the Rockets. Lots of Houston Rockets symbolism with this Blake Griffin stuff. That's why he was traded to the Detroit Pistons. So, more research, but seemingly really connected to the Houston Rockets, also the Cleveland Cavaliers. I need to look more into the Boston Celtics, but absolutely scripted trade. That's the moral of the story, I guess. Hopefully you're still following what I'm saying. There's always so much information. I could go on like 10-minute tangents on other topics that are related, but I don't want to lose people. So we'll just end it there. Have a good one. Peace.